Here's a guy who thinks he has an atheist cornered.
Just to give you a background on me, I'm an agnostic atheist.
Okay.
I don't believe in a God, but I will not ever say that I'm certain there is no God.
Okay.
How do you know you'll not ever become convinced there is no God?
And when I was looking at your claim initially of, can you disprove Christianity? My question arised was, can you disprove any other religion? Or can you disprove any other grand claim? Like, I've heard atheists say, well, you can't disprove the idea that there are leprechauns or unicorns. Is not being able to disprove something necessarily indicating that it's proven to be true?
Every religion claims to have truth. Within the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, it says that truth is elusive, it's mysterious, it's hard to find. Muhammad said that he was still searching for the truth. Buddha said that truth was so hidden from us, there was no ability to actually attain it. Jesus arrives onto the scene, and he never said that truth was mysterious, elusive, or hard to find. He never said he was searching for the truth. He said, I am the truth.
Case closed then. I guess that must mean that Christianity is the only true religion. Also, what does it mean for a person to be the truth? A person is not a claim or a belief, so how could he have a truth value?
And then he said, nobody comes to the Father except through me. The claims of Jesus separates him from every religious guru, every prophet, every individual who claimed to be God.
Really, not a single other person ever claimed to be the truth? How could you possibly rule out the possibility that no other prophet ever made that claim? Have you read every saying of every prophet ever?
If a Hindu came up here to the soapbox, I would have a conversation with them about their worldview concerning Hinduism, and I welcome you, if you're a Hindu, to have that conversation. But neither one of us believe in pink unicorns, correct? So therefore, it would make no sense for you and I to talk about pink unicorns.
If that were the case, then you wouldn't have used pink unicorns as an example.
Unless you were seriously considering Hinduism or pink unicorns. Make sense?
I think his point is the comparability of Christianity with Hinduism with respect to our ability to prove or disprove them. Both are analogous to pink unicorns in that respect.
Makes sense.
So I want to stay within the scope here, because oftentimes people want to raise an objection, and then they want to hide behind that, and they come up with another objection, or another objection they think is unanswerable. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Very good. So how do we determine what truth is? That's a good question.
By picking one of the several definitions of truth that people use. Although maybe what this guy meant to say was, how do we determine what's true? Well, what seems to be a necessary condition for most of the definitions of truth that I've heard is coherence. I don't know what it means to say that a claim which is incoherent is true. I don't believe in God because I don't recognize the more common definitions of God to be coherent.
If you open up the Bible, we would see that truth conforms to the mind of God, but if you open up the dictionary, truth is that which conforms to reality.
The idea that truth is whatever conforms to the mind of God is common among presuppositionalists. In practice, though, since we can't ask God questions that he answers in ways that everyone can hear, what they really mean is that truth is whatever they think the Bible says. This presupposition makes the claim that the Bible is true meaninglessly tautological. To say, if you open up the Bible, you can see that truth conforms to the mind of God is effectively to say that the Bible says that the Bible is true. This circularity underpins all of presuppositionalism.
But whose reality, yours or mine?
Depends.
Right.
Do we each get our own reality? Maybe what this guy means is that people have their own perceptions and conceptions of reality. Maybe what this guy means is that people have their own perceptions and conceptions of reality, and therefore we need to defer to God, which in effect means deferring to the Bible, to settle differences. However, since people can vary in their conceptions and perceptions, they can read the Bible and come away with very different understandings about what it says. So deferring to it doesn't really solve the problem. If what's true in my reality is different from what's true in your reality, then what if what the Bible means in my reality is different from what the Bible means in your reality?
Because what you might determine to be true might be true for you, but it's not true for me.
And what you think the Bible means may be different from what I think the Bible means, even if the Bible is an infallible source of truth. So the existence of such a source of truth does not solve this problem.
Unless there is an objective source for truth.
Even if the Bible is an objective source for truth, what we each perceive and understand that truth to be can still be wildly different. Both my understanding of what the Bible says and your understanding of what the Bible says can be wrong. If we're both deferring to the same book, how exactly do we solve that problem? And how do we discern that the Bible is the infallible source of truth? If you rely on the Bible for your definition of truth, I don't see how you can even begin to investigate whether you're relying on the right book or not.
Now, subjectively speaking, you like chocolate ice cream, I like vanilla, right? It's just subjective. But if we're just evolved pond scum from goo to you by way of the zoo, if we're just matter, well, then we don't really matter.
Why not? The things that matter does certainly has consequences. Even if the question of our value is comparable to people valuing chocolate over vanilla or vice versa, those preferences matter. If you order chocolate ice cream and get served vanilla, that's not totally inconsequential. It certainly might affect the tip the server gets. Even if preferring your loved ones to be alive rather than not is a preference, just as preferring chocolate over vanilla is a preference, it's clearly not as trivial. Apologists love to compare our strongest evaluations to our most trivial ones as though they're all the same without a god. They're not.
It's like two weeds that are growing up in a field. Both are growing. Which one is growing correctly in which correct direction?
That depends on which way you want them to grow.
No, they're just growing. They're just responding. By you talking, there's synapses happening inside your brain, and you're responding to me, and I'm responding to you.
And whether your responses are true, as I use the word true, depends on how effectively they model my experiences.
But that doesn't change truth. The majority of people think that there's just subjective truth unless they're pressed a little bit.
The majority of people say this? I don't think I've ever seen that poll result.
I believe that there is objective truth. First of all, let me ask you, do you believe in absolute truth?
I believe that claims can absolutely match their reference. Where it gets tricky is when it comes to discerning which claims match their reference.
I believe some things have absolute truths. Some things, like morality, I don't see as having an absolute truth.
You don't see morality as having absolute truth, or you don't see outside of morality being absolute truth?
No, I see outside of morality, there are things that have absolute truths.
Okay.
Mathematics, principles of that such.
Yes.
But morality, I believe, is highly subjective.
Morality,
And,
okay.
Recently, I don't know if you know Alex O'Connor.
Yes, of course.
I've been listening to his discussion about the linguistics
Yes.
Surrounding morality and how people assign morality based on what they say they like or dislike.
Right.
I'm not totally certain on his view yet, but I do believe that it's a highly subjective area.
You believe that the laws of mathematics are absolute, they're objective.
I don't. The laws of mathematics are only true insofar as anyone conceives of them. In the absence of minds, the laws of math are neither true nor false. They are meaningless.
2 plus 2 is 4 here, and 2 plus 2 is in Zimbabwe, even in a remote hut where they haven't even discovered the laws of mathematics.
We can project meaning and truth onto such a scenario from our perspective, but to the people who are unfamiliar with the concept, it is not true that 2 plus 2 equals 4, nor is it false. It is meaningless.
You also believe in the laws of science, and you believe in the laws of logic.
If by the laws of science you mean the laws of physics, chemistry, etc., I only believe in them for as long as they continue to match observation. The laws of logic describe the boundaries of what seems to make sense to us. I will continue to believe in the law of non-contradiction for as long as I am unable to understand what it would mean for a contradiction to be true.
You have the law of non-contradiction by way of example, right? I cannot be on this pedestal and off this pedestal at the same time and in the same sense. If I was, that would be contradictory. Not a paradox, a seeming contradiction, but that would be a contradiction. Therefore, it would be illogical. So you believe in certain absolutes, certain logical things. But when we talk about morality, and I want to hone in there, morality is evolving for the better or for the worse?
Objectively, I don't understand what it would mean to say that it is evolving in either direction. Most of the changes in morality that I have seen over the course of my lifetime have been in a direction I prefer, but not all of them.
It depends on who you ask.
Because there's no objective standard.
Exactly.
And if there's no objective standard, well, then there is no right, there's no wrong. There's no good, there's no bad.
No, there's no objective right and wrong.
There's no objective right or wrong. So we punish people that do something wrong within our society, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Effectively, we punish people for doing things we'd prefer they not do.
It doesn't mean that they're morally wrong. It
Right.
could mean that they're legally wrong.
So this means that rape is wrong within a society, but it doesn't mean it is morally wrong objectively.
This is a common well poisoning technique that apologists love to use. They want to conflate saying that there is no objective right or wrong with saying that acts which are intolerable to our consciences are actually okay in some sense. That's not what it means to say there is no objective right or wrong. Some acts are going to be intolerable to my conscience whether there is an objective standard saying they're wrong or not. Some would continue to be intolerable to my conscience even if you convince me that they are objectively morally obligatory.
It can be as close to as objectivity as you want it to be. It could be almost 100%, but there are psychopaths who do believe it to be good.
Yeah.
And that's a horrifying
Well,
thing.
why are they a psychopath?
They're a psychopath because they fall outside of the realm of the norm. There's something in their brain that
Who's
doesn't
to
trigger.
say that what they're believing is wrong.
If what they advocate is intolerable to my conscience, I won't be able to tolerate it whether there is some objective standard that says it's wrong or not. Even if there's an objective standard that says it's right, I still won't be able to tolerate it, so what difference does it make? The existence or non-existence of an objective moral standard is totally inconsequential with respect to my behavior.
Remember, William Wilberforce, he fought against slavery at a time when slavery was accepted within a culture.
That culture was Christendom. The reason they accepted it was because their Bible says, you may buy slaves.
When the majority of the people wanted slavery to exist, William Wilberforce rose up like a phoenix and said, slavery is wrong.
This is a great example of people reading the Bible and interpreting it in very different ways. Lots of folks look at the Bible and see the passage that explicitly permits the buying of slaves and concludes that God permits the buying of slaves. Others look at passages about freeing specific slaves, like the Epistle to Philemon, or freeing specific groups of slaves, like in Exodus, and they make a hermeneutic leap to inferring that the Bible actually condemns all slavery.
The author of Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. He recognized himself as a wretch. He linked forces with William Force and carried on the conversation that slavery should be wrong. They're outliers.
Yeah.
I would say, that slavery is wrong. You would say, correct me if I'm wrong, that they going against their society, because society accepts slavery, that they are the psychopath.
No, that's not what psychopathy is. Being a psychopath doesn't just mean rejecting social norms. It means being unable to empathize with people. Sometimes rejecting what society says is right is motivated by empathy. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.